May 2011, Friday the 13th, I got told I got cancer. And Friday the 13th to me was leading to the ultimate, which was death. Everything was right. I was refereeing, I was doing sport, had a business, I was busy, I had a great family. It ain't gonna happen to me.
I never really thought about cancer.
I lived very haphazardly. Anything went.
They sent me to the doctors, and then I found out I was ill.
I remember vividly, it was just really right. I'll pop in and see what they say about this lump.
Your biopsy results came back, and it's cancer.
Before I had my cancer, I was 22 stone. I was a very confident guy. I was in sales and marketing. I could stand up in front and talk in front of 500 people with no problems. I met Sharon. We'd recently got married, got 2 lovely stepchildren. And yeah, I was ready to take on the next step in my life. I was never ill, so I had a few issues with my throat that they thought was just a matter of getting older. I went to the consultant on Friday the 13th, May 2011, Friday the 13th at 11 o'clock to be told I've got cancer. It was the start of a journey that is embedded in my head. The day I got diagnosed, I was just sat in the waiting room in ENT with a lot of patients, and I just thought they were there for their hearing problems, their nose problems, whether they got tonsillitis, or I just didn't put it down to being that they were all sat there for cancer. So when I got diagnosed, I just thought it's just happened to me and I'm the only one that's suddenly been told they've got cancer.
When we came back off our cruise, it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and I said to Ted, we'll have a cup of tea and then go and get a few hours sleep. And because he's taller than me, I was looking up at him and he said, you've got a lump at the front of your throat. I said, oh, don't talk silly. And he said, you have? Oh, so we'll have a cup of tea, I said, and go to bed. And in the morning when we did get up, I phoned my daughter, who's the nurse, and she came over and she said, I think you might be better going to see the doctor, Mum.
It just started with a lump on my neck. Went to the doctor. The doctor said, oh, we need to send you to the hospital, not immediately, make an appointment for you. And I went up there, they did a biopsy, and then I had to go back in the October to get the result.
2010, I performed at my best friend's wedding, and that was around when I noticed that something was affecting my singing. Something, I could tell that something was on my tongue, like a small area, like a raised area.
One young lad I met was only 12 when he got diagnosed with throat cancer. 12 years old being diagnosed, what I had to deal with when I was 50 odd.
I had chemotherapy, radiotherapy and immunotherapy. My family helped me through it and stuff.
Head and neck cancer used to be prominently male orientated, 50 plus, smokers, drinkers.
We would work hard, we would drink hard, and we would fight hard. We did everything to an extreme. I was always, if I went out to play ball, I played to win. If I went out to drink, I got drunk. If I had 3 packs of cigarettes, I'd buy the 4th one.
So to have this diagnosis with such a stigma attached to it to the heavy tobacco users and alcohol users was such a knock for me.
It doesn't matter whether you are fat, thin, rich, poor, doesn't matter what you are. When it gets you, it takes you. If Friday the 13th to now was a road, then I'd say it was like a country road that had lots of turns, lots of bends, lots of hills, good parts of the road where you can go fast, other parts of the road where you've got to slow down. I've met lots of patients on this journey, on this road, not just in Blackpool, not just in Lancashire, not just in England, but around the world.
Unfortunately, in 2010, my dad passed away of lung cancer. So we were my family was dealing with all of that. We were kind of very close to when that happened at the time of my diagnosis. So it was very devastating. In fact, when I was diagnosed, I didn't even want to disclose to my family what had happened.
So I went to the doctor and he said, we need to refer you to the cancer unit, because if I do it that way, it's on a 2-week referral, you'll be seen within 2 weeks, so it's better be safe than sorry.
In 2004, my voice was, I completely lost it. So my wife kept after me saying, go to an ENT, go to an ENT.
And then I got asked to go back in, and I went back in, and they set me down in a room, and the nurse and my consultant said, I'm really sorry, I've got to tell you it's cancer. And that was the world falling apart.
He came into, I was in the recovery room, 15-minute biopsy. And he walked in, the ENT walked in and said, you have stage 2 cancer, and he walked out. And it was like somebody smacked me in the head with a bat. I didn't know what to think.
And I went to the clinic, and of course it was ultrasounds and a needle biopsy. And to go back on the Friday.
I just wanted somebody to look at it. But cancer, something like cancer at that point was the furthest thing from my mind.
We grade 1 to 5, and yours is a 4.
I went alone because I had just no idea that that was going to be the result of the appointment.
I looked at my daughter, and she just said, it's cancer, Mum.
And I generally wasn't expecting it. I thought they were going to tell me I've got swollen glands, and they've got to do something with my glands.
And it was like the air came out of the room.
The information overload, I believe, is a massive problem because there's only so much a human being can take in. They then start giving you all these forms, they give you leaflets, they give you so much stuff, it's unbelievable. But your brain can't take it. I've just been told I've got cancer, and now I'm being given all this information. And it is like information overload. It's like the old blue screens on computers. You put too much in and you get a blue screen and you've got to shut it off.
The nurse took us into another room and explained what was going to happen and gave me leaflets, etc.
Basically, they give you a pamphlet, and you know, it's up to you to read it. But we all know what we do with pamphlets, so.
How am I going to tell my wife and my family about this? I need to know more about what's going to happen so I can tell them this is the diagnosis, but this is what's going to happen.
When I first got told, looking back, I am, even to this day, very angry with myself that I didn't deal with it better. I should have been a lot better dealing with the news. I should have took the information in. I should have been the strong one and not relied on Sharon.
At the time, in the office, when you're faced with this, it's almost like your survival instincts kick in, and you kind of accept the treatment that you were told.
And you're just sat at home every day knowing that you're on your own and the world is carrying on and you can't do anything because you've got cancer.
They strapped me to a table 38 times. They radiated me, they burnt me. So I'm not allowed to maybe feel a little bit sorry for myself.
Couldn't work because I've been told I had to give up work, and you just sat there waiting. I was depressed, I was annoyed, I was angry, I was literally everything. I hated the world.
You can pull through it. I pulled through it and I'm fine now.
The actual operation, I recovered really well.
I didn't want this to even be a blip, you know, in the timeline of any career that had potential.
I was trying to be as logical as I could be in terms of what do we do now, what do we do next, and what do we do after that, right? And I tried to look at it very, very positively.
My quality of life through treatment was on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being poor, 10 being very good. In my previous life, I would say my quality of life was a -1.
I was sitting at home feeling sorry for myself, and here's a guy that I was always the center of everything.
And you just sat there on your own. Quality of life, there is no quality of life. When you get diagnosed and you're on your treatment, it's all about getting you to the other end. Quality of life is not on their radar because they want you to have radiotherapy, they want you to have chemo, they want you to have a peg fitted. As far as they're concerned, that's to make you survive cancer and to kill the cancer. And if that's the pain you have to go through, that's what you have to go through. During my treatment and beyond my treatment really, Sharon used to call it my cancer bubble. I was depressed, I was annoyed, I was angry. Many a time I could have just got in my car and drove it into a wall because I believed my family would be better without me. No matter how I felt, I still had to get up and go for my radiotherapy. And many a time I could have just stayed in my bed and died. But halfway through my treatment, a district nurse used to come to me every day, and one day she saw me going further and further down, so she actually said to me, I just need you to go and see the GP. He then done a test on me, and I think they score it somewhere between 1 and 10, 10 being suicidal, and my score came out as a 9, so he got me in front of a psychologist virtually within days, and from that point onward I then started to accept what I had. But certainly that psychologist listening to how I was and going there every week to talk things through that I felt certainly helped. And maybe, and it should be, that should be just a standard process. Dry mouth to me is like living with a desert inside your mouth, that every time you look at something, it's like looking at food that's cardboard.
Basically everything in my mouth was rearranged, and my tongue being compromised as it is now, I have trouble manipulating food.
They had told me that I might encounter a little bit of a thirst. They never told me the extent of it, to the point where I couldn't even spit. I had no saliva.
When I go through my treatment plan, they do mention side effects, they have to, so they talk about various different side effects. And they talk about a lot of side effects, about muscle removal from here, that you're going to have trouble with your neck, you're going to have trouble with swallowing, and you're going to have dry mouth. But, you know, dry mouth to me at that stage was just dry mouth.
It was very scary because you couldn't swallow.
You try living with dry mouth. I have to live with dry mouth now every day of my life. And trust me, dry mouth is not just 2 words.
Being diagnosed today is much different than it was being diagnosed in 2011, just because there's so many more advances. People have a lot of success with overcoming cancer now.
The recent stats that Cancer UK research have just launched are that 4 out of 5 people will survive 10 years more with head and neck cancer.
When you're young, all you want to do is see your children grow up have grandchildren, and you know your family's all stable.
My turning point in my road when I hit that bend was twofold really. One was the district nurse finding out that I'd got depression, but I think the other one was starting up and getting involved with the Swallows. And it was the turning point where I started now being able to do something at home on the computer, designing little bits of leaflets, designing little events, putting on little bits and pieces, which was my past. And that helped me turn the block, because before I knew it, instead of sitting at home doing absolutely nothing, I was actually doing things.
I met Chris after my first operation, and I went, and there was a few of us. And that's when I first met Chris, and of course he was recovering then from his own surgery.
So I suddenly become a value again, whereas previously I was just this sick person in the corner, and that was a burden on the family.
And one day I said to myself, and my wife said to me, it's about time you pick yourself up off the floor. So I got in my truck and I drove to the Staten Island Mall. I was afraid everyone's going to look at me like I was a monster. Well, I drove to the Staten Island Mall and I bought myself pair sneakers. And nobody looked at me like I was a monster. And from that day forward, I don't stay home. I go out, I work, I do estimates, I volunteer. I got my hands into just about everything.
I don't know what caused this, but if I could have stopped it, if I could go back, I still wish it would have never happened.
But what I'm doing now is I bought a Nikon SLR, and I'm taking particularly photographs of people when when there's a social event.
Now suddenly I'm feeling that I've got a value. I've also got something I can talk to Sharon about when she comes home from work. So it just helped pick me up.
I go different places in my scooter around England and just do tricks on my scooter, trying and stuff, and trying new things because it's fun and it keeps me fit.
Like, I go to sleep and I wake up and I think, did that really happen to me? Did I really have cancer? Like, I'm almost still, I can't believe it, that it did happen to me.
Now you got two choices. You either address the disease or you give up. And my advice is address the disease, because you know what? That is a long time. And I can only speak for myself. It's not as bad as people think that it is.
Get diagnosed with cancer, my life's over. And here I am over this period of time, in 6 years. I'm now in the United States of America. So I ended up in New York, where I love going out and taking my own photos. I've been to Times Square. I went on a boat over to the Statue of Liberty. Unbelievable. And here I am on the last day in Boston, outside the most famous baseball ground. What a journey. I just cannot believe that I'm so lucky to be on this journey.